1. Mal frightens Bernie. Bernie is horrified when Mal locks the cafe door and confesses his feelings for her. Although Bernie is quick to shoot down his declaration, she is left shaken when Mal turns sinister. Bernie makes a terrifying discovery when she sees that someone has cut her face out of her wedding photo and flees in fear. Bernie decides to confront Mal with the defaced photo and accuses him of breaking in. Mal protests his innocence, but Bernie warns him to leave Weatherfield or she'll report him to the police. 2. Bernie confesses to Kit with Dev and Asher on a trip together. Bernie is alone and frightened at number 7. Bernie arms herself with a golf club when she hears someone at the door, but is relieved to find Kit. Bernie confides in Kit about her night with Mal and his unnerving behaviour since. Later, Mal publicly confronts Bernie in the cafe and Roy is forced to throw him out. Meanwhile, Dev and Asher return home, but will Bernie tell Dev the truth? 3. Mal is attacked. Bernie ignores the presence of a passerby and threatens to kill Mal unless he stays away from her. Undeterred, Mal insists that he's going nowhere. Will Bernie regret these words, given that someone was listening? Later, Lisa tells Kit about a man who was found lying in the street with a head injury. Kit is shocked to recognize the victim's name. He visits the hospital and learns that Mal is in a critical condition. Meanwhile, Bernie packs her bags. 4. Bernie is arrested. D.C. Browning tells Bernie that he's arresting her on suspicion of assault. Kit visits Bernie in her cell and she vows that she's innocent. In the interview, Bernie tells D.C. Browning about her night with Mal and accuses him of harassing her. Is Bernie telling the whole truth? 5. Carl is knocked back by Jody. Carl sends Jody a text but is put in his place when Jody finally takes Shona's advice and tells Carl to get lost. Meanwhile, Ronnie is infuriated when Debbie ignores his warnings and instructs him to transfer £2,000 to Carl. Ronnie tells Ed about his fears that Carl is taking advantage of Debbie. Later, Carl is dismissed again by Jody, but the pair fail to notice that Jody is being followed. 6. Jody's past catches up to Hearn. From a distance, Jody is spied on by a woman with a locket identical to hers. After a frosty exchange with Toya, Jody is taken aback by Olivia's arrival. Olivia questions Jody about why she left and reminds Jody that she used to say how much she enjoyed caring for her and her brother. Jody struggles to respond to Olivia's questions. Later, Jody retrieves a box from the cupboard that reveals a secret that she's been keeping. 7. Jody tries to get closer to David. After a pamper day with Shona, Jody is irked when Bethany and Maria label David and Shona the perfect couple. Afterwards, Shona is upset to realize that her wedding ring is missing. David returns home to see Jody with her arm down the back of the sofa to find the ring. Jody tells David she needs his help, but when he crouches next to her, it's clear Jody is enjoying their close proximity. 8. Shona makes a romantic plan. Jody tries to come between David and Shona by making it seem like David hasn't done the chores. Meanwhile, Shona reveals to Bethany that she and David barely get to spend any time together, but Bethany comes up with an idea. 9. Steve receives news about Jim. Steve receives a call from Jim's landlord demanding unpaid rent and discovers that he has been listed as Jim's guarantor. Steve does some digging and learns that his father is in hospital and is not expected to pull through. 10. Steve has a choice to make. Steve is urged by Cassie to visit Jim, but Tracy reminds him of all the hurt Jim has caused. Ben offers to drive Steve to the hospital, but when they arrive, Steve remains in the car. Steve admits to Ben that although it's his last chance to see Jim, he might be making a huge mistake. What will Steve decide? 11. Cassie plans a surprise for Steve. Steve, Ben and Tim spend the day at a county event and return to the Rovers in high spirits. As the trio play darts, Steve fails to notice a call from Jim. The next morning, Steve wakes up in the Rovers' back room after his drunken evening. Later, Steve tells Cassie that he's going to forget about Jim as he already has everything he needs in life. Meanwhile, Mary tells Tim all about the big surprise Cassie is planning for Steve. 12. Christina gets George in trouble. Christina cracks a joke about George manipulating his way into his client's wills and is horrified to realize that Mrs. Ripley, a potential client, has overheard her. The situation worsens when George is informed by Adam that Annie has hired him to contest her mother's will and advises George to find a solicitor. Christina attempts to smooth things over with Mrs. Ripley. George fears his reputation is ruined. George considers turning down the £10,000 left to him in Annie's mother's will, but reconsiders when Christina points out that it may be seen as an admission of guilt. Meanwhile, Adam informs Christina that Annie has accused her of being a co-conspirator and intends to sue them both. Later, Mrs. Ripley's son thanks George for overseeing his mother's funeral, but Annie interrupts their meeting and insists that George isn't to be trusted. 14. Maggie makes her feelings clear. Lauren is thrilled when Ollie invites her for dinner, but Maggie disapproves. Maggie issues a thinly veiled threat and reminds Lauren that she wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for her. Will Lauren reconsider her date?